Shirley has led many successful projects in sustainable development over the years. The story she'll be sharing is about fighting a highway expansion, and she banded together with the Strathcona community at the time. And I'll let you
for the invitation, Kevin and Jocelyn, for inviting me to tell a little bit about my story of how a low-income, largely non-English speaking community fought the freeway dreams of the city of Vancouver's bureaucrats, and in the process helped to make Vancouver one of the most livable cities in the world. So it all started in 1967 when an American-based consulting engineering firm, Phillips Barrett, released their Master Transportation Plan, which was commissioned by Vancouver. And that plan, the transportation plan, proposed that the city build a major freeway system. It's a system with all the bells and whistles, a third crossing of Burrard Inlet, a waterfront freeway that would run along Coal Harbour and Gastown, an 8-lane, 9-meter elevated freeway that would cut through the heart of Chinatown, a connection with the replacement Georgia Viaduct, which you all know I want to take down, then east along Union and Carter Streets and the Great Northern Cut to connect with Highway 1. It would be a connector also in Chinatown for the north-south and east-west and waterfront freeways. That's where they would all come together in a giant ball, right? So this proposal sparked the Great Freeway Debate. It was a 6-year fight that divided and united different parts of the city. Those who chose to challenge the notion that cities come of age only when you build a massive freeway system so you can drive at the same speed under the same conditions all over North America. That's how you move goods and services, cars and trucks. The opponents had a different vision of transportation and what was livable. They didn't buy to the idea that freeways would reduce congestion and improve the livability of Vancouver. Rather, they thought the freeway might divide communities and spew pollution and dirt, and that the elevated ramps would kind of be unfriendly to neighborhoods. So who all was involved in this challenge? Was it the Pinkos, Mouse, and hamburgers, as Mayor Campbell said? Not at all. The opponents were community leaders, business leaders, the educated, UBC professors, Walter Hardwick, some of you may have heard of, and their students, ordinary citizens, people who cared about their neighborhood. And surprisingly, the Chinese Benevolent Association and the very poor, upstart Strathcona Property Owners and Tenants Association. And that was the association that my family helped to found and to stop the demolition of our homes. So with Chinatown as the hub for the freeway network, certainly the Chinese community felt the freeway would be a death threat to Chinatown. It would divide business and community, and it would disperse the Chinese, which was, by the way, part of the objective of the whole exercise. The freeway plan also threatened the historic neighborhoods you now know as Gastown and Chinatown. And in 1968, when the Strathcona Property Owners and Tenants Association, called the SPOTA, I don't think of that name, but here we go, formed to fight the demolition of the remaining 32 blocks of homes. 1,600 people had been displaced by phase 1, 1,700 plus had been displaced by phase 2. SPOTA had to take on the challenge of the freeway as well, because that freeway was going through their neighborhood, like it or not. So we brought together other threatened neighborhoods, Chinatown, Gastown, Granby Woodlands, Hastings, Sunrise. And together we joined with the professors, the planners, the students, the business leaders, community leaders, and we organized protests. We petitioned City Hall, the province, and the feds, and we got them to work against each other, to stop the third crossing and the freeways. 2 stormy public meetings were held on the freeway issue, and Mayor Tom Campbell described the November 3rd, 1967 meeting as a near riot, with 500 protesters jamming City Hall to make their opposition to freeways known. The second public meeting, held at Queen Elizabeth Theatre 2 weeks later, drew 800 opponents of freeways. So as a result, Council, the following January, Council, the Carroll Street alignment, which is where the Dr. St. Garden and Penny Cultural Center sit today, and the East-West Freeway. But they approved the Georgia Viaduct. For Strathcona, the Georgia Viaduct was a continuing threat, and since it was the linchpin of the freeway system. So their anxiety was realized soon thereafter when the engineers proposed a couplet of 2 one-way streets that would be built from the Georgia Viaduct through the neighborhood east. And blocks of home would be demolished to make way for these couplets that would serve the very pressing commuter traffic from downtown, sort of those who weren't taking the buses, of course. And SPOTA had to work to stop the construction of the couplet. We succeeded there. But the viaducts got built, and they stand today and as a monument to the defunct freeway system in Vancouver. So with the viaducts under construction, council continued to pursue the dream of a third crossing at Burrard Inlet at Brockton Point, and that it would link to a freeway system. So in April '69, they brought another consultant report that proposed 6 alternate routes for the third crossing, of which 5 would go through Chinatown. So in the face of this overwhelming opposition that followed, council didn't adopt any of the recommendations, and the freeway opponents declared an interim victory. We knew better than to think that it would not resurface. So 2 years later, they rolled out another transportation plan, this time for a tunnel under Thurlow. But they didn't say where it would surface. And the mayor refused to hold a public meeting this time because he didn't think they were all Pecos, mouths, and hamburgers. But the critics held their own meeting. So 700 people packed a meeting sponsored by the Citizen Coordinating Committee for Public Transit. And then on March 15, 1,000 people packed the auditorium of Eric Hamber's school for a 6-hour forum to protest that third crossing in Freeway. Finally, the death knell for the freeway at third crossing was sounded when the federal government announced it would not contribute any more money to this $200 million project. And then the elected NDP government in Victoria in '72 announced a sea bus ferry that would serve as the third crossing. But the people of Strathcona had yet one more battle to stop, and that was the construction of the Quebec-Columbia connector. And it took 6 years of protests, vigilance, and struggle before Vancouver was finally free from the freeway threat. What did we learn? I'm sorry, Nicole? That ordinary citizens can change public policy, that if you remain vigilant and you work with your neighbors and across sectors, you can win, that you can divide governments and then cut off the source of funding to succeed. You can get political because the freeway battle became a political movement called Team, and it changed forever the way the city makes decisions that directly affect its citizenry. It democratized the political process in Vancouver, and of course, on a personal note, it changed the course of my life. I did not become an elementary school teacher. So in the words of Dr. Peter Oberlander, the freeway debate was absolutely strategic, central, and probably historic in shaping the Vancouver we have today. And in closing, as former mayor and premier Mike Harcourt observed in his book that he co-authored with Ken Cameron, City Making in Paradise, the freeway fight gave Vancouver the distinction of being the largest city in North America without a freeway clogging its arteries.